Hey everybody, Mike Toy, Bonsai, Boise. So these are two little leaf Ficus benjaminas. These were all cuttings from my main two little leaf Ficus benjamina. For anyone not familiar, this is a variety of the regular Ficus benjamina, but they call it two little leaf because the leaves are much smaller, I guess. I assume that's why they call it that. They're littler. And you can see the bark looks kind of similar, but the leaves, not only are they smaller, but they're curly. So these are all cuttings from that one main two little leaf ficus, which I'll post a link for right here. I think I got that about a year and a half ago, give or take. Posted a couple videos on it. And I've just been letting these cuttings go ever since. And today I'm going to make a forest group out of it. Something like that. I think I had around 9 cuttings and a few extras that were kind of smaller. And just judging from this, I kind of thought maybe that would be too many. But just wait till I get in there, you'll see. And I've got a new trick I'm going to do this time. These little cardboard things, those came in a bed that we bought online and it was just in the box. But I always struggle with these forests because, you set one up, you get it just right, then you put another one, then the first one falls over. So this time I'm going to go about it different. I'm just going to try that. I'm going to put one in, put a little cardboard barrier, and then put the next one in, put another cardboard barrier. So I'm just going to get the pot ready so I'm not fumbling around with that. Halfway through. This bonsai soil that I'm using is just my normal mix. It's perlite, pine bark, safety absorb, and some small volcanic rock. I don't know what to expect as far as roots. These were all in very tiny pots, just odds and ends here and there, because they were just cuttings. And then over this summer, I up-potted a lot of them into slightly larger pots so they'd have some room to grow. This one surprised me because it had really dark soil. Must have had higher content of pine bark. See, compared to this one, lighter looking soil, so probably a higher content of perlite. If you've ever watched my videos on making soil, you'll know it's not a perfect science. I get it pretty close. Somewhere around 40-40-20 for safety absorb, perlite, and pine bark. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this is typically what I do with forest groups, is I just get all the cuttings or trees out of their pots. I want a really shallow root system, as you can see. And sort of shake off most of the excess soil, put them in a bucket of water, and let them just sort of marinate there for a few minutes while I get everything else going. It doesn't shock me that the soil looks kind of bad on some of these. With cuttings, I don't always use new premium looking soil that I just sifted. Sometimes it's like old soil, a tree that died or something. I'll kind of use that soil because you never know with cuttings. Sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't. Can't be wasting all my new soil every time. So there we go. So I'll let them marinate for a little bit. As far as strategies going into this, I'm going to go with 50%. I don't have one. And the other 50%, I want it to look a little bit sort of raw and wild. I don't expect this to be a perfect looking forest right off the bat. These are young cuttings after all. And, sometimes it just takes a couple iterations. This is the first go. But I'm going to try to trim up most of these cuttings so that they're taller and skinnier, which is the opposite of what you would normally do with bonsai. Normally you want the growth to go outward rather than upward. But a forest, it's a little different. I've trimmed these cuttings once or twice maybe in their life. And I was a little surprised at how well they kind of stayed in place for me. I was rewatching these and trying to figure out why was it so much easier this time. So I've made a elm forest and a couple others. I think it's because of the fact that I kept them taller and skinnier rather than branching outward a long ways. When they branch outward, they want to tip over on you. A lot harder to manage. I end up sticking rocks in there just to keep them in place. But this one, my little barrier trick worked great. I would highly recommend this for anybody who wants to put a forest group together. You can use anything, any cardboard. Use like old set of playing cards or just whatever. It was a quick and easy way to keep the trees sort of in place while I'm messing with the other trees. So you can see it's kind of coming together. These two little leaf ficus, I'll just share my experience with them so far. These all came from the same tree, like I mentioned, and it's the only time I've ever seen one for sale around here. I see regular Ficus benjaminas everywhere, all the time. Grocery stores, big box stores, any plant store, you're always going to see Ficus benjaminas. But two little leaf, for whatever reason, are much harder to come by, at least around here. Maybe they're common somewhere else. But they have a lot of the same general characteristics as a regular Ficus benjamina. They don't like it cold. They prefer it, warm, humid. Their relationship with watering is about the same. They like a good thorough soak, then let the top inch or so dry out, then soak again. They will not tolerate freezing of any kind. As far as defoliating them, I did a little reading. I've yet to ever try defoliating one. I know that you cannot defoliate a Ficus benjamina, except for there's some certain conditions, some kind of very specific conditions that would allow you to, but let's not muddy the water with that. For the most part, you can't defoliate a Ficus benjamina successfully. The branch will just die off or the whole tree will die. I think it is the same with these two little leaf ficus, or so I've read. So I wonder if you're going to notice the same thing that I noticed afterwards. I didn't realize it at the time, but I wanted this to look like a kind of wild, raw forest. And unfortunately, I didn't notice at the time, I lined those trees up kind of uniformly, almost like a tree farm. If you've ever driven past a tree farm and you look and see these perfect rows of trees, that's sort of how this ended up going. Maybe because I'm going at it at an angle, I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't notice it until it was too late. And that's okay. I'm probably going to supplement this forest with some smaller cuttings along the way. And I'm definitely going to, repot it in a year or two, and I'll rearrange it then. So that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I was a little surprised at how many cuttings I had laying around for these two little leaf. I knew I would take one here, take one there if I trimmed it up. I started looking around and counting them up and was like, wow, I got tons of them. So here it is with all the trees more or less in place. Next, I'm going to look at the shape and sort of make some decisions there on how I want to prune these. I'll say also that normally I would prune up any bonsai tree before repotting it, just because it's easier to do it in the pot it's already in, because it's established. You can trim it up how you need to without messing it up. Once you repot it, it's a little more fragile. It's in new soil. It's not fully bonded and established yet. So that's what I would recommend. But in this case, couldn't really do it because I didn't know which cutting was going to go where. So I just have to be careful now on my trimming, make sure I don't knock one over and they all tip over like dominoes. So there it is before trimming. Pretty wild, pretty raw. I thought about just leaving it like that and letting them go. Then I thought, nah, let's give it some shape. Kind of like that. So I'm just making some strategic cuts to kind of get it into that shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Even if I made it perfect and spent all the time and effort to get it just right, a month from now it's going to be different. Some branch is going to grow maverick style out in some weird direction, and so I'll get it pretty close. This is still what I would call the development stage of it. It's important to sort of be realistic with yourself on these sometimes and say, is this in a refinement stage or a development stage? If it's still in development, give yourself a good amount of leeway. No sense trying to make it perfect if it's still developing, still thickening, still growing, still taking on its character. Once you're in the refinement stage, you've had the tree a while, you pretty much know which direction you want to go with it, then it makes more sense to be picky. I mean, do what you like, of course. That's just what I recommend. That's the conclusion that I've come to with this. I know it looks like I'm being picky and contradicting myself here, but I'm really not. What it is I'm trying to do that rough shape like I showed a second ago, but I'm looking at it from a different angle as the camera, so I'm just making sure that I'm making the right cuts in the right spots. And then after that, I'm gonna take off all the lower branches, anything that's roughly 2 inches up the trunk, just so it looks the way a forest would look, with herds of deer walking through, eating all of the lower foliage, kind of like that. Getting all the leaves out of there. I'll also mention that while I bring all my ficus trees in the fall and the winter, I definitely bring them out. I know some people don't for a variety of reasons. Sometimes people just don't know that you can bring them out in the spring and summer. Some people just don't want to because it's a hassle, and I understand that too. I'm just pointing out that you can, and I do, and the trees certainly love it. You gotta be a little careful with that first transition outside because it can kind of shock them a little and some of the leaves can fry up and die. But once they get past that, they love it. They grow outside way better than they grow inside. So it's good for them, really, to give them a good outside growing season. But this is it for now. Like I said, it's still in development, so it's got a ways to go. But please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and you can see updates on this and other trees. And thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.